Welcome to my podcast, Up Your Total Glow, your podcast for your body, mind, and soul to support, guide, and empower you to uncover your most glowing, healthiest, and feel good version of you. I am super excited that you are here because if you ask me, there's nothing that looks and feels better. In today's episode, I'm speaking with the brilliant Duncan Bhaskaran Brown. Duncan is a speaker, author, and Morris dancer, and he is obsessed with spreading awareness around alcohol abuse and addiction. Duncan is on a mission to empower you and anyone around you to break free from the bondages of alcohol and live an empowered, happy, healthy, fulfilled, and joyful life. In this very beautiful interview, Duncan shares, among many other things, his own journey from drinking, smoking, and eating junk food to empowering himself to someone who feels energized, who has a lot of focus, feels peaceful and joyful, and can spread happiness. If you are ready to break free from alcohol and live a truly empowered, healthy, and happy life, then this episode is a must listen for you. Please enjoy. Here he is, the amazing Duncan Bhaskaran Brown. Hello and welcome, Duncan. I am so excited to have you here today. How are you?
I'm very well. I'm looking forward to getting into some really interesting stuff.
Same here. Okay, let's go right into it. What are you truly passionate about, Duncan? Why are you here today? What do you want to shout from the rooftops?
So I'm passionate about reducing or even removing the harm that alcohol does, not just to individuals, but to like the entire planet. That's why I get out of bed in the morning because I can see the damage that it does at an individual level, and then what that does to organizations, what that does to our society in general. So that's really something I'm really passionate about making a difference to.
And I want to congratulate on that. I 100% agree that alcohol is just so damaging. I wonder sometimes what would our lives be like if, we never had tried this thing, alcohol, and our whole society wouldn't revolve around this drink. But before we go deeper into this, can you just share with us, do you have a history with alcohol, or where does this passion come from?
Yeah, well, I mean, it comes from my fairly good answer to that question. What would it be like if we had never drunk? Because my life is basically this controlled experiment. What I thought I'd do was 20 years of drinking far, far, far too much, and then stop drinking and then see what happened. And of course, I feel a whole lot better. So the difference is almost like night and day.
Yeah.
The fact that I have a lot more energy. It's pretty early in the morning for me when we're recording this, but I'm fairly chipper. But honestly, the only times I ever used to be up at this time of day was if I hadn't have gone to bed. So, yeah, I mean, in terms of energy, in terms of concentration and focus, in terms of time, in terms of peace and calm and self-awareness, I mean, the difference is just absolutely huge.
I agree. So it's amazing that it sounded like you said, okay, you drank way too much. And then one day you woke up to yourself and decided to stop and not drink way too much. In my experience, what I see outside of me, this journey is not quite as easy to most people. So can you go a little bit deeper into this? Was there something that really triggered you to understand, hey, why am I actually doing this? And I don't want to do this. And did you take steps then to help yourself through that process, or was it all smooth sailing and easy for you?
There's an awful lot in that question, isn't there? But just to sort of start off, I mean, the thing that really motivated me was, I was actually doing reasonably well on one level. If you looked at my life, it looked fairly successful. I'd had a series of high profile positions in local politics. So, I looked quite successful from that point of view. I had a job, I had a house somewhere to live, and best of all, I had this really amazing wife. And we decided that as we had, excelled at everything adulty, then we should do the most adult thing ever and start a family, which was quite good fun. Well, I mean, the trying bit was quite good fun, wasn't it? And we were that, classic naive couple. We were wandering around with these big smiles on our face. It was all going to be wonderful until we went to the hospital for a checkup, and the nurse gave us the devastating news that my wife was having a miscarriage. At which point it probably all fell apart. And, obviously that was really hard on my wife, both emotionally and physically and mentally.
Yeah.
But I know now that what made it a lot worse was I just wasn't there for her.
Yeah.
My standard response to difficult times, to hard emotions, to, the struggles of life was just to grab a bottle of wine and disappear. Which is not exactly what she needed, was it? So I didn't really help her through that. And as I say, it got a bit difficult, and it got to the point where I couldn't kind of really hide, and I had to pay some sort of attention to it. And I guess there was this sort of 2-month period where I spent a lot of time reflecting on what it was that I actually wanted out of my life.
Mm.
What was I here for? What was the purpose of Duncan? And it never I never stood in front of the mirror at 4 a.m. with the moody lighting and had this amazing revelation. But looking back on it now, I realized that over that period of a couple of months, I just kept asking myself, what do I want from life? Do I want another drink, or do I want a family? Of course, the good news is I made the right decision. And almost 9 months to the day after I stopped drinking, my daughter was born, which was fantastic. I mean, it introduced a whole other set of problems into my life, but still, it's good. So that was the kind of the why. Did you want to get more into the how?
I first want to say, I think this is absolutely beautiful and such a testament of what we truly are capable of if we find our why. I love how you described it, that, you started to kind of wake up and ask yourself, what do I really want? What am I here for? And what does this look like? And am I living in line with that or not? And the other thing that I wanted to point out is what you said about, the numbing out. I think this is truly what most of us choose to drink for, or maybe not right in the beginning, but what happens then after a while. This numbing out, this helping us to assumingly be more relaxed and outgoing and not care and stress less. And we need this so much because we don't have enough of this. And I also feel, so I'm not talking about the alcohol, I'm talking about the not being stressed out and all of this. And also I feel we don't have enough tools in our toolkits, or we don't talk enough about toolkits and what this can look like. So unfortunately, it is my experience that most people do numb out, that it is very normal. And that's the other part, kind of, it's a societal thing as well. So when I go out, often people make fun of me because I choose not to drink. It just doesn't agree with me. I don't feel good. It is not aligned with my life's purpose and choices. It's just not me. So I don't ridicule anyone around me who chooses to drink, but often people feel kind of attacked by me not drinking, even though I can prove to them how much fun I am, not fatigued, not boring. So can you speak to that societal aspect and to that numbing out?
Yeah, so I think you've kind of hit the nail on the head with that sort of saying numbing out. And that is indeed the problem with alcohol. Most people think that's the benefit of alcohol, but actually, when you really get deep down into it, it's a problem because you know when you drink alcohol, it does numb you. It does reduce the amount of emotions that you're feeling, which some people think is very advantageous, and that's great, and that's what I want it for, Duncan. The problem is it does not work selectively. If
Mhm.
you start to numb out the pain, you end up numbing out the joy as well, and you end up making your life just like devoid of emotions because you literally at a physiological level, you reduce your ability to feel emotions,
Yeah.
and that is not a great way to live life. It's kind of like you have been given this amazing 4K surround sound, HDLR, whatever all those abbreviations actually mean, but a fancy TV that looks amazing and fantastic, and you're basically slowly turning it into one of those dingy black and white cathode ray ordeals, and that I think is probably the biggest problem with alcohol, that it stops you feeling. And you know yeah, if you stop feeling, you turn the birth of your child into the same as brushing your teeth, and
Mm.
why would you want to do that? It's just, I don't know, it's just that I think is one of the biggest problems in terms of the effects of alcohol, and interestingly, not something that a lot of people talk about.
Hmm. And quite practical for society, isn't it? If we stop feeling. Sorry, I just had to say that. But what I also wanted to say is that I also think, like with all of losing those emotions, we also lose self-confidence. Because what I see now, so my daughters are a little bit older than yours. Mine are 16 and 18. So, and I see when they go out that it's normal to drink because then they feel more relaxed, are more outgoing. Okay, I get that. However, if we continue this, we like kind of feel like we can only be outgoing and like that when we drink. So it becomes kind of a habit loop and a negative one. And what this truly takes away is our self-confidence. So many other things that it takes away. And I think that is a real problem. I mean, apart from that, it interferes with good quality sleep, with our hormones, that it's just poison for our system. Let's name it as it is. Yeah, I think it's a real problem. So, what's your take on the whole societal thing? Why is it such a norm and so agreed upon that we go out and drink and have fun?
It's old white men. I know it's kind of fashionable to blame them for everything, and if I continue on my current trajectory, I'm going to end up being one. But if you look at the statistics, men are far more likely to drink than women. So for every four alcoholic drinks that sold worldwide, men drink three of them. So men are more interested in drinking than women are. If you look at the way alcohol consumption is spread around the world, it's basically a white European thing. So anywhere where we were a little bit over successful, so North America, South America, Europe, Australia, New Zealand, those are the places where lots of people drink. If you look at everywhere else in the world, the drinking rates are a lot lower. So, I mean, obviously, there's that swathe of the world from North Africa up through the Middle East all the way to Pakistan,
Mm,
where 97% of people never drink because
mm,
they're Muslim countries. But also, if you look at sub-Saharan Africa, about 65% of people never drink in sub-Saharan Africa. So it's not something that's like really embedded deeply within the culture, despite Heineken's best efforts. If you look at Asia, I mean, India, for example, 65% of people never drink in India. Even China, which has quite a developed drinking culture, 45% of people never drink in China, for the simple reason that a large amount of them lack the enzyme that helps to break down
Yeah.
alcohol. So it makes drinking alcohol very, very uncomfortable. It's the Asian flush response, which many of your listeners
Yeah.
will have heard of. So yeah, it's definite. And you can look in countries like America, countries like the UK, countries like Australia, and the statistics are exactly the same. White people drink more than people of African heritage or Asian heritage. So it's very much a white thing. It's also very much an old thing. So the older you are, the more likely you are to drink. That is literally a straight line graph. There is a slight dip around when people have kids and they, have this enforced period where they don't drink quite so much because they, have to look after a small screaming ball of want. But in general, the trend is pretty much upwards throughout your life. And the highest rates of problem drinkers are among, 65 to 74-year-olds.
Wow.
So you add all of those three things together, and what does it add up to? Adds up to old white men who, have for many years set the business agenda, which is why, there's a lot of alcohol around business because old white men like drinking. And when they conduct their business, they want to do that. If you look at the media, the media is, again, dominated by old white men. And unsurprisingly, the alcohol is always portrayed in the media in a very, very positive light.
Yeah.
It's always connected to power. It's always connected to masculinity and manhood and strength. But it's also connected to sophistication and beauty and desire. So yes, I mean, look, we have many things to answer for as a group, but the over reliance on alcohol is definitely one of them.
And it makes a lot of money, doesn't it? It's quite convenient, actually.
Well,
Um,
see, the thing is, it doesn't. I mean, it makes a lot of money for alcohol companies, but it costs the economy a huge amount of money. Various studies have been done. I mean, just about the best statistics come from Canada. But, if you want to do some sort of back of the paper, back of the envelope calculations, you can look at the amount of money that alcohol costs in terms of policing, the amount of money it costs in terms of healthcare, and the amount of money it costs in terms of social care. And what you will find is that as a figure, will usually dwarf the amount of money that the government receives in terms of alcohol duty and tax and
hmm,
so forth, because alcohol is something that is really, it's undertaxed. So in the UK, alcohol is now pound for pound 87% cheaper than it was 30 years ago because the tax has just not gone up.
hmm,
9 out of the last 10 years, tax in the UK on alcohol hasn't changed. Um, it means that in terms of the cost of living, alcohol is a whole lot cheaper. So the revenues don't even begin to cover the actual cost to the government, let alone the cost to the economy in terms of lost productivity. So if you look at the US, last year, 2023, in terms of lost productivity, it probably cost the American economy about 430 billion US dollars, which is quite a bit of money. In fact, that's actually more than Apple's entire turnover. So, if we lived in that society without alcohol, the American economy would be better to the tune of Apple.
hmm. I would like to argue that sounds absolutely interesting. I'd like to argue that, like with the medical health system, the way it is, they do make money out of this because if we are not sick, they are not making money because it's not a preventative care. But apart from that, I would like to hear, because I am all about empowering others. It's really important to me that if you listen to this, if you see this and you feel like, yeah, I want to be with alcohol, or I want to drink less, it just doesn't feel right in my body, and my life is not the way I imagine it. This Duncan guy is amazing. What can one do to help himself, help herself? And like when we think of it, it probably feels like almost undoable, like such a huge mountain to climb. And that can feel very overwhelming and sometimes then easier not to climb it at all. So you managed, obviously. So can you just share a few tips? And once we start and take little tiny steps, is it truly so hard and unclimbable?
No,
Awesome.
that was easy. Ask me another. Look, I mean, that is the thing. I think a lot of people think it is like climbing Everest, and you know, it's really not. It's it's actually fairly easy to stop drinking alcohol. All you have to do is not drink the stuff. And I know that sounds a bit glib, and I'll go into a little bit of how to do that in a second. But actually, the stopping bit is the easy part. What most people struggle with is not the stopping bit. What most people struggle with is the staying stopped, which is,
Mm,
about building that life whereby you have these things like meaning and purpose and self-awareness, and that gets you to a point where it's just there's no you no longer have any desire to drink because you see it for what it is. And most people don't struggle not taking heroin. Most people are pretty happy to wake up in the morning, go about their daily business without even thinking about heroin. That's because they have no desire to go and get some heroin. And if you can get yourself into the same position with alcohol, you can get to a point where you genuinely have no desire to drink anymore. And if there's no desire, there is no temptation. So it's pretty easy. And how do you do that, I guess, is the question that everybody be answering. So there are different schools of approach. My view is that what you need to do is you need to get to grips with the beliefs that you have around alcohol. Many of these things will have been lodged in your head through the media. Like I mentioned earlier, you probably believe that alcohol is a bit macho, that it makes you a tough guy, or that actually you look a bit more beautiful and sophisticated with a glass of champagne in your hand. So what you need to do is get to grips with those beliefs, because those beliefs, they underpin your actions. And I think
mm,
people don't quite realize how much their beliefs dictate their
mm,
actions. So, for example, we have an election today, and I will be queuing up. The moment the polling station opens, I'll be one of the first people to vote in my constituency. Why is that? It's because I believe democracy is important. I believe that you have to be active in democracy to get the kind
mm,
of world that you want. So, and I'm sure many of your listeners share that belief, and and therefore they go and vote as well, and they will often inconvenience themselves to do it. So getting to grips with your beliefs around alcohol, I think, is always the first step. They sit there in our subconscious, and we don't really ever acknowledge them. So you've got to identify them, you've got to
mm.
bring them out into the open, and then you've got to ask a couple of key questions about them. One, is it true? And genuinely, does alcohol reduce your stress?
Yeah.
The number of times I have people sort of tell me about their life, they go on and on and on about how difficult drinking is, the impact it's having on their job, on their personal life, on their health and fitness, on their relationships, all of this stuff. And then I go, why do you do it? And they go, oh, well, it helps me relax.
Mm,
And it's like, well, it doesn't, though, does it? I mean,
mm,
like, given everything that you've just said, it is the major form of stress in your life. So, asking yourself whether those beliefs are true, that is a great starting point, but also asking yourself whether they're serving you. Are they helping you become the kind of person you want to be? I mean, I wanted to be a parent, and I had to ask myself, was it helping me become a parent?
mm,
No, as it transpires. And then once you've got to grips with all of those beliefs, there's a little bit around thought management. So some people talk about cravings, but ultimately cravings are a cognitive process. They're just a thought. And you need a few sort of tips and tricks to help you get through those thoughts, because they are going to recur. But once you've dealt with the beliefs, once you've got a little bit of an idea about how to manage the thoughts, then honestly, the actions just follow. The actions end up being the easy bit. So, you know, I genuinely believe that anybody can stop drinking.
I 100% agree. And I think that was super powerful what you shared. Thank you so much for uncovering it the way you did. What I'm wondering about, one thing about the taste buds, the good thing, or cravings, the good thing is that taste buds can change. So, it always depends on what you are mainly eating and drinking, and they change very quickly. So even that point is absolutely doable. But what I'm wondering about, what I see, what's the most challenging for most people is that they have organized themselves in a group of people who love drinking, and they drink habitually together and then kind of find their way around this, or not engaging in it seems to be really hard. Like, there seems to be this feeling of left out and not belonging. And obviously, this is something that is just innate within us. We need that feeling of belonging. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's such an important observation. So, I mean, people struggle with that kind of acceptance of their new lifestyle, finding a new way to socialize, and belonging. Absolutely, and it happens with your friends. It can happen with your family. It can happen with your partner. So it can be enormously difficult to navigate, and that is such a shame because one of the pieces of what we would call recovery capital, so the stuff that helps you to remain sober,
Mm.
absolutely, friends, family, and a supportive partner is, that is one of the things that absolutely correlates with continued sobriety. So it is both a curse and a blessing.
Mm.
What do you do about it? Well, I mean, in terms of friendship groups, I think sometimes you do need to curate your friendship groups,
Yeah.
as my good friend Leisha calls it. And you've got to realize that if you have nothing in common with people other than the fact that they drink a lot too, then they aren't really your friends.
Mm.
They are drinking buddies, and their drinking buddies is not a very deep kind of friendship. But what I found, and what quite a lot of people I've spoken to have found, was actually that, for a little while, maybe a month or two, they got a bit of grief, but eventually their friends got to the point where they realized that, oh, you are actually serious about
Mm.
this. You're not drinking anymore, but we still love you. And there's if there's more to your friendship, if it's built around collected history, or it's built
Yeah.
around a hobby, or a mutual interest,
Yeah.
then there's actually a lot that's going to continue after you've stopped drinking, and that's what will bind you together as you move forward. And actually, for me, so I do this strange British thing called Morris dancing, and it's very much tied up with alcohol. And I started doing it because it's a socially acceptable excuse to drink before lunchtime.
Mhm.
And when I stopped, I wasn't sure whether I was going to enjoy it, whether even I was going to be able to do it. But I went along a couple of times because I'd already committed to going to those events, and I didn't want to let the lads down. So, and I turned up, and I did actually enjoy it. And what I think, what I found, and what a lot of people find is, you know, it's about so much more. It's about community. It's
Yeah.
about friendship. It's about, a shared tradition. It's about the activity that you do. I do actually quite like the dancing,
Mm.
and it kind of dawned on me over the course of a few months that actually it was never about the beer in the first place. And I think that's something that a lot of people find with their relationship. And of course, I mean, you can teach tools about, how you approach it, how you say no without making people feel, uncomfortable, and how you navigate your way through all of those relationships. But at the end of the day, I think, you've got to sort of accept that there are some people that you can't just completely ditch from your life, but you can actually limit the amount of time you spend with them. I talk to people about socializing, and they'll say, well, my family still drinks very, very heavily, so I still go to the barbecues, or whatever the social event is. I still go. I'm just very conscious that I'm only going to be there for a couple of hours, and
Mhm.
it'll be all right for a couple of hours, but there'll be that point where the party just kind of switches, where everybody starts to be a little bit drunk and obnoxious, and I just leave then. And I'm very clear with my family that that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to
Mhm.
hang around for a bit, and you know, then I'm going to leave. So uh, it can be tough, but it is certainly something that you know. A little bit, a few social skills, and a little bit of planning, you can usually make your way through most of those difficult situations.
Mm. And it sounds like by setting healthy boundaries, we are even empowering ourselves. And I guess we are coming back to feeling more self-confident and discovering more about our truth self. Like you said, you thought you were picking up that amazing dancing of yours because of the alcohol. And then you realized, actually, I truly love that. And not the alcohol, the dancing. And I'm here for that, and I'm probably enjoying it so much more now than when I wasn't really feeling all of what I'm feeling now, because I was numbing myself. So I love that. That's absolutely beautiful. And wouldn't it be wonderful if, without obviously saying anything to others, because nagging and all of these things don't help. But if just by you showing up here, like your best version of you, being bright and funny and full of aliveness and a good mood and energy, um, that people feel inspired and, want to change too. Wouldn't that be beautiful?
Yeah, I mean, I genuinely think that's the way it works. I
Yeah.
think if you try and tell drinkers that it's going to kill them, and it's costing them a fortune, and it's going to ruin their relationships, you just make them afraid. And
Yeah.
I know this because it used to just make me afraid. And the other thing that it won't surprise your listeners at all. What do people who drink do when they're afraid?
Drink
They just
more.
drink more, don't
Yeah.
they? So it ends up being incredibly counterproductive.
Yeah.
Um, However, if you can show them examples of people who have stopped drinking and are still enjoying life, they're still socializing, they're still, having fun, then yeah, absolutely. You're showing them that there is another way. You're giving them permission to change.
Mm.
Shine your light in the world. That is absolutely the best way to bring about change. And also, you know, it's it's not just me. There are so many other examples. What almost like any world you want to go in, you will find examples of people who either stop drinking um, completely, or very much limit their intake. So you could look at, I mean, there are so many sports people. Wimbledon's on at the moment, so Novak Djokovic is at the top of my mind.
Mm.
The greatest tennis player the world has ever seen, doesn't drink a drop of alcohol.
Mm.
Great example if you're into sports. Football, there's some football happening at the moment as well. Cristiano Ronaldo, I mean, like, he's playing his sixth European Championship. The longevity of him as a footballer is absolutely amazing. And I know he does a lot to care for himself, but a big factor in that is that he doesn't drink alcohol.
Yeah.
And you look at, the world of entertainment, Anthony Hopkins, very, very well respected actor, hasn't drunk for, I think it's about 48 years now. I always find that a bit amusing that he got sober before I was born. And then, like Taylor Swift, who happens to be my daughter's favorite musical artist at the moment.
Oh, cute.
Yeah, not that Taylor Swift never drinks, but she was recently
Mm.
talking about When she's touring, she doesn't drink when she's touring because I've never been to a Taylor Swift concert, but I imagine there's quite a lot of dancing. So I
There
imagine it's
is.
quite a cardio workout for her.
Yeah.
And, to provide that, that amazing level of entertainment to her fans, the kind of level of performance that she believes her fans deserve, you know, that is incompatible with alcohol. So there are so many fantastic examples out there
Mm.
of people who, either have completely stopped drinking or are heavily moderating their drinking, to live their best life.
Mm. So, do you believe then that it's about self-care and self-respect, so that we make an empowered choice because we truly respect ourselves?
Oh yeah, I mean that's some powerful stuff, isn't it? Yes, I mean I think it starts off sort of from a self-care point of view that, most people drinking even even a kind of moderate to severe amount notice it. They feel the effect that it's having on their body. So they stop drinking to make themselves feel a little bit better to start with. But I think the knock-on effect is as you move down the road and you build that emotional awareness, you start to develop a bit of compassion for yourself and
Mhm.
a bit of love, and you start to realize that actually you deserve better than
Yeah,
what you were getting when you were drinking. And I think that's absolutely huge, and something that's come up again and again and again in our research is self-awareness and
yeah,
the ability to just be more aware of who you are, how the connection between your mind and your body,
yeah,
how feel on an emotional level, but also, right back to that kind of whole meaning and purpose piece. Yeah, like literally every time I talk to somebody who's got sober, got successful, self-awareness is usually bubbling under the surface, or
yeah,
absolutely they're shouting it from the rooftops, but it is always a part of the journey. And I think that that's such a huge gift.
yeah. I agree, and beautifully said. And even realizing how good we were designed to feel, because it's my experience that often people don't really know how amazing we can feel, what amazing lives we can have, because they are used to just plodding along and surviving. And that makes me truly sad. I am a huge fan of your work. I believe you have written at least one book. Is that true?
Yeah, I've written quite a few books, but the early ones are about local government and they're very, very boring.
Hmm.
So we don't talk about those. So I wrote a book called Get Over Indulgence, which is sort of basically just my journey. I don't want to kind of spoil it by saying you might learn something by reading it. It is mostly just a kind of fairly entertaining little tale of how I went from being a slightly annoying school kid to getting into all of the trouble with alcohol,
Mm.
with junk food, with cigarettes, but also how I got out again. And like I say, hidden sort of deeply in it is a little bit of a suggestion about how you might go about doing that. But I don't want to spoil it by saying it's got a message. It's quite short, it's quite funny, it's quite readable.
Mhm.
And then I've got some really great feedback from that, and had some great responses. But I wanted to write something that was more kind of tactical, which was more like how to stop drinking if you want to stop drinking. And I sort of spoiled it by making it all about men, so that one's called Real Men Quit. um like I said earlier, men drink more than women do. That's
Mm.
just a fact. So we end up with more problems than women do, but we also suffer from this issue whereby we're not really that good at asking for help.
Yeah.
So I thought a low stress, easy way to ask for help is just to go onto Amazon and type in the words "real men and quit," which are all quite short and anyone can spell. Yeah, it's a book that will take you through a process that will help you to consider what you want to do about your drinking, and if you want to stop, it will show you how to do it. But it is definitely all all about meeting men where they are. So there's lots of sport in it. There's lots of Star Wars and the Terminator and James Bond. And there's a lot of really bad jokes as well, because we do like the terrible jokes, us men. So yeah, that's Real Men Quit. That's my latest one.
Oh, amazing. Sounds really, really, really good. And thank you so much for doing that. I do think we need a book like that. Where can my audience find you, Duncan?
Well, I mean, if you want to check out Real Men Quit, just go onto Amazon. It's on all of the various platforms worldwide. Just type in Real Men and Quit, and you'll be fine. If you'd like to have a look at Get Over Indulgence, though, I'd love to offer your listeners a free copy of that. All they need to do is put getover.uk into the internet. That's getover.uk, and that'll take you to a bit of my website. You can download the PDF, the Kindle, or if you can stand to listen to me for 3 hours and 45 minutes, you can download the audio as well. And so, yeah, that's just at getover.uk. But also, that is a bit of my website, so you can find out more about what we do there.
Oh, thank you so much. That's very kind. I think that's absolutely fabulous. To finish off, dear Duncan, could you, I mean, you've shared amazing knowledge and wisdom with my audience, but could you please share three golden nuggets that would kind of summarize the most important things that would empower someone who wants to quit, who wants to stop drinking?
Yeah, I think, to start off with, it is, the most important thing is to get to grips with what you believe around alcohol. Honestly, is it helping you socialize? Is it helping you become the kind of person you want to be? Is it, reducing your stress? Just, questions like that. That is always the starting point. And then once, you have found a way to get free, then it's about keeping on track. It's about keeping on.
Yeah.
Um, it, It is work. I can't dress it up in any other way. You actually have to do the work. That's why they call it the work, because it's work and it's kind of annoying. And I wish I could just sell you, a program for $99 that would be incredibly easy. But, the world doesn't work that way. Recovery is simply a synonym for life. And if you want to lead an enjoyable, happy, healthy life, you do need to expend a bit of effort making sure you're doing the right things. So, once you've got free, keep on keeping on, don't slide back. But I think the most important thing is just realize that, you are enough.
Mm.
You absolutely are enough. You have everything inside you that you need to lead a happy, healthy, enjoyable, meaningful life. You don't need alcohol. You don't need junk food. You don't need cigarettes. You don't need social media. You don't need so many things in this life of ours. But you definitely don't need alcohol, because you are enough.
Mm. Hallelujah. Beautiful. I love it. You are amazing. I am so, so grateful for this interview today. Is there anything that I haven't asked you and you wish I had?
Oh, I would have liked to have got into the Morris dancing a bit more, but that, that's all right. No, I mean, look, I am always happy to continue the conversation. It is a big subject, and I
Yes, it
could talk
is.
about it for literally days, but that would make a rubbish podcast, wouldn't it? So yeah, but I mean, people just get in touch. If you've got any questions, I'm on social media. I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. Please, get in touch. Ask me the questions. I might be able to help you. I might not, but if I can't help you, I do know somebody who can.
Awesome. So please do reach out to Duncan. I will put all of this into the show notes. Duncan, thank you so much for making the time today and for empowering yourself and now empowering so many others. And by doing this, helping me and so many others to make our world a healthier, happier place. You are amazing. And I'm truly grateful for what you do. Thank you.
Well, thank you. The pleasure is all mine. And, thank you for all of the amazing work that you're doing to help people as well, getting the message out there. So, all those listeners should go and give you a 5-star review on Apple so that you can reach more people and help more people.
Thank you so much. Stay awesome, my friend. If you loved and enjoyed this episode, then please help me to spread love and happiness everywhere and make our world a healthier, happier place. And you can do so by sharing this episode with one other person who you feel would greatly benefit from it. I know that you were born to live your best life and feel absolutely amazing in your precious body, your brilliant mind, and your boundless soul. So what are you still waiting for? Please make sure you do. I'm your biggest cheerleader. I believe in you. Keep glowing. Much love.